It's 4 o'clock. We're in the Carson City Community Center, the Robert Bob Kroll Boardroom. We're here for the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting, and it's May 9th, 2022. Can I get a roll call?
Mike Jones,
Here.
Steve Kim,
Here.
Steve Reynolds, Stacy Giomi, and Bobby Radier are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Yeah, if I could ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 4, public comment. If there's any public comment, I don't see any, so we'll move on to item 5, approval of the minutes of the April 11th, 2022 CTA board meeting. Would any member like to see any
So
revisions?
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, meetings or approval. Item approved. That moves us on to the consent agenda. Would any member of the board like any item pulled for individual discussion? Would any member of the public like any item pulled for any individual discussion? Then if I could get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. With that, we'll move on to item 9. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of amendment number 02 to contract number CTA 1920-001 with KTPS 3 titled Creative Content / Development and Public Relations / External Communication, increasing the contract amount by an additional $173,500 for a total contract sum of $560,000 and extend the term of the contract for 1 year through June 30th, 2023. David, you want to?
Sure.
Just, uh,
Thank you, Chair Jones.
supplement.
For the record, David Peterson, Executive Director with Visit Carson City. So this is an amendment to extend the KPS3 contract that includes the public relations, creative development, and content development for one additional fiscal year. And that amount is the $173,500. So that's going to include fall and winter shoots, like we're doing in June for the spring summer with the new creative look and feel. We'll have the PR component, which will include activations, in-market pop-ups as well to help us get this new creative off the ground over the next 12 months. And then all the regular stuff remains in place for any other content development, but all the ads, anything forthcoming will be included as a part of this additional money. And then the plan will be probably late November or maybe the first week or so of December, we'll go out to bid, right, for these services as well as the web development, CRM, e-marketing services as well. So this will give us another year on top of the existing contract.
Any?
How does this contract, this extension compare to what we've expensed for the previous years on the contract?
It's a little more, Mike, by virtue of the fact that we've put some heavy dollars in around PR activations and in-market pop-ups, which we have not done in the prior years. So I'm looking at Lydia. I think we've spent probably plus or minus $125,000 to $135,000, and obviously we pared some stuff back significantly because of COVID. But it is more by virtue of the photo video drone shoots that we want to do for fall and winter. And then we did heavy up with the PR activations like in market, say Sacramento, maybe the San Francisco area. So those are new expenditures. But Lydia, does that seem about
Yes,
right? Okay.
that sounds in the relative ballpark of that. But yeah, we wanted to put more towards the PR efforts to launch the campaign. So that was also a big part of that too.
Any other questions, concerns from the board? No, it makes sense, especially with the fall and winter of 23 will be here before we know it, and to be ready for that.
And I might just add, the idea here with the amendment was to give KPS3 the opportunity, since the creative execution development, the photo shoots, it's to allow them to get this campaign off the ground, to launch this, to have all of our digital assets, our video assets, print, billboard, all of those assets, not just spring, summer, but also fall, winter, to let them see this through the process. And Steve, for you coming on board last year, we're with the pandemic, we're a full year behind. So originally, we had planned to do this last summer. So we are one entire, fiscal year behind, maybe even a little beyond 12 months behind due to the pandemic. And so I'd like to give them the opportunity to see this through.
Yeah, we've developed that plan with them, and I think it's the right thing to see if they can produce. So if I can get a motion to approve amendment number 02.
I will make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. That moves us on to item 10, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the proposed CTA fiscal year 2023 tentative budget. Chris, you're going to run us through this quickly?
So this is your fiscal '23 tentative budget. It's been submitted to taxation and we received the approval letter for it in the mail actually today. So this contains the three funds, which is the general fund, the capital projects fund, and the V&T capital projects fund. We have estimated expenditures of $2,789,100. And I'm just going to go through this rather quickly and you guys just stop me if you have questions. On page 4 of 15, which is 3 of the taxation schedule, we don't have any changes on this one because we really haven't changed the number of staffing that we have. So that one's the same as last year. On the next page, page 5 of 15, this shows the revenue, the beginning fund balances that we're estimating, the revenue we plan on getting, and the transfer from the capital projects fund into the general fund. I'll kind of break down these as we go. Let's see if I get the right page here. On page 6, we have the expenditures that we're planning for fiscal '23. Salaries, the benefits, the services, and the supplies. And I'll kind of go through those on the next couple pages. The next page, page 7 of 15, is showing the revenues broken out for the general fund. The first column is what we actually ended at the end of our audit for June 30 of 21. The second column is what we're planning on ending on in 22, and the third column is what we're projecting for 23. So we're kind of keeping the room revenue the same for both fiscal year 22 and 23. And David and I will be looking at those again before we bring it to you guys at the budget hearing in a couple of weeks. See if there's any new updates for that one. The intergovernmental revenue, we're estimating about 50,000 in NCOT grants. The gift store, currently we have 0 because we didn't open it with all the COVID closures and everything. We opted out, so we're going to try again fiscal 23. The investment income, we're kind of adjusting that because the bond accounts are going down and ours is starting to go up a little bit. So we added a little bit to the investment income there. The transfers coming from the VNT Capital Projects Fund, that's the money we use to adherently towards the train for the VNT train. And next page will show you expenditures by function. We have 2 functions, the general government function, which is admin, and the culture and rec function, which is arts and culture, marketing and PR, events and sales, and the visitor center. It kind of breaks out salaries and wages, benefits, and services and supplies. And then the intergovernmental expenses, that's the interlocal agreement with the city. Then we go on to page 9. That's basically the same breakout. This is just showing the general fund, just kind of lump totaling from the previous page. Page 10, this is moving on to the capital projects fund. The top half is the revenue. Same thing, room tax that we've estimated, the interest income, and the beginning fund balance. And then the expenditures are the interlocal expenditures. That's the transfer to marketing. And then the total committed fund balance. And I skipped over the capital projects. Sorry about that. On page 10 is the same thing, the revenues and the expenditures for the V&T capital projects. The expenditures on this one are the $65,000. That is the payment that the board agreed to, I think, 4 or 5 years ago now, to at the end of the year, if we have any funds left over after making the bond payment, we give them the $65,000 towards the V&T. On page 12 is just showing the transfer from B&T Capital to the general fund. Page 13 is lobbying expenses. We don't have any of those. Page 14, this is a schedule of existing contracts. Currently, the only one, other than now we'll add the one you guys just agreed on, but the current one we only had was Casey Nealon, and they're the ones that handle our audits and our financial statements. And then the privatization contracts, we don't have any of those. Any questions?
And Chris, could I just add one thing? We'll add the KPS 3 contract that we extended last month for web, only because of the timing of that. When we submitted the budget, we didn't have, everything in order, It wasn't officially signed. So both KPS 3 contracts will be included on what you see during the budget hearing for the final budget submission, Yeah.
Well, that was a lot in a little bit of time,
Well
Chris.
done.
So the logic behind keeping the hotel revenue the same for 22, 23 budget? Or
So,
kind of walk me through what you're thinking. Not that I disagree, but
I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of uncertainty, unknowns out there right now. Stock, we got the stock market situation, we've got the war going on over in Europe. I'm concerned about the inflationary adjustments. We all know what's going on with the price of gas as well. We're dependent upon traffic. Arguably probably 60-something% of our people arrive by car. Watching what's happening with flights. Some of the airlines are reducing the number of flights moving forward. So that's going to impact us for those markets that are either nonstop or single stop, coming into the Reno Tahoe area. And as you'll see just a little later when I walk through the monthly lodging tax projections for this year, we've set a record every month this fiscal year, and just uncomfortable with suggesting that we're going to literally set a new record for every single month next fiscal year. So I feel comfortable with a flat budget going in, considering this year is going to blow the highest year we ever had out of the water by like $6-point-something million right back in 19. So that's the reason why we've put forward a flat fiscal 23 from the revenue perspective for the TOT. And the other thing I would mention too, we are down a property. So with the Carson Tahoe Hotel, currently kind of in their situation, which I don't fully understand what's going on, that is one fewer property that we have, and we are collecting zero room tax revenue. So I would add that kind of hangs out there too in terms of the decision making, or the rationale behind our flat 0% increase for fiscal 23's TOT. And so, Mike, to you and Steve, feel free to weigh in, please, as hotel operators. There's a lot of uncertainty, that I feel is hanging out there in the air, so.
no, it's kind of unpredictable. We can keep going, I guess. I would say I worry about what the gas price the most. Like you said, 60% of our visitors are drive up. Is that going to affect? But I agree. I don't think it means, and think positive, and hopefully we can make the same number again. I think would be a win for everybody. Any other comments or questions for David or Chris?
I think all the reasoning behind doing it that way is sound. My comment would be, I think all the reasoning behind doing it that way and leaving it as zero increase are very sound, so I'd agree.
That if I could get a motion.
So moved it.
Second.
All right, I think we have to move.
Let me state the motion.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to state the motion.
I move to approve the proposed CTA FY 2023 tentative budget as discussed.
You get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. With that, we'll move on to item 11, monthly non-action items for discussion only. David, Executive Director's update.
Thank you, Chair Jones. I've just got 3 things this month to enlighten the board with. I want to thank Lydia for putting together a wonderful advertising and marketing grant request to the Commission on Tourism, a week ago, I think, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. For next fiscal year, our grant request was $41,250. It included 4 components: the fall and winter television, video, photo, drone shoots, also streaming television, so over-the-top television services, a fall Travel Nevada Expedia Co-op campaign where we buy in with Travel Nevada and some of our peers throughout the state, and then a domestic advertising co-op with hotel beds targeting travel agents. So I think we will know maybe within the first 8 or 10 days of June whether or not we were awarded any or all of that grant request. So thank you, Lydia, for putting that together. And then Saturday, I'm very pleased to say Stu and I went out to the MAC. On Saturday, we had our first ever Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu championships. Kids, adults, let me tell you, that was really cool. I've never seen anything like that in person. The American Grappling Federation team put on an amazing event. They set up the entire MAC. Scott from Parks and Rec said in an hour and a half, in, out, amazing job. So it was wonderful to see that. They're hoping to actually do a bigger tournament in October, and then we're going to be talking about potentially January or February doing another tournament. And they do 95 events throughout the world. Huge European effort with their events as well. So I think this was a great showing for Carson City, to be honest with you. They were very pleased with the MAC and the team and how everything kind of came together. So we're making some inroads, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I would have never thought that in a million years. So it was a great event. They were wonderful. It was nice to meet one of the co-owners of the event. And so I will keep everybody, or Stu will, I should say, keep everybody up to speed on what happens for the fall and the winter with these folks. So
I think I missed it. It was well attended.
it was packed. So they had, imagine like gray fencing all around what I would say would be 1/4 of the entire facility. So if you're kind of aware of how they set up for the luau for Boys and Girls Club, so they had the mats going down with three I guess areas where they were doing their jujitsu, and on probably 3 sides, people wall to, just shoulder to shoulder, and then the benches that sit on the one wall, they were packed with people. So some challenges, right? If you weren't high enough or standing up on the seats that come out from the wall, you wouldn't be able to see over everybody that was standing on the fence line. So we might think about retooling the MAC maybe in a little bit of a different way for October, especially if they go to 6 matches at any given time. But yeah, there were easily a couple hundred people in there just when we were there. Yes.
Were they not allowing any spectators on the balcony? That would be the solution, wouldn't it?
No, so there's a couple of issues. The first question I asked, and there are 2 issues. One is with egress due to fire code, and then the other issue is you can't have people up there with any kind of shoes on, right? Because they would tear up the surface of the walking and the running track up top. So there's a fire-related issue and then a footwear issue as well. So yeah, nobody was allowed to watch from up above, which really would have, I think, really been a cool perspective, quite frankly. But I did ask that question, and I was told no, unfortunately, with the fire code situation and then footwear, and
martial artists, they could go barefoot.
well, yes, yes, yeah, I won't say anything about that, but yes. Any other? Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt if there were questions. Okay, and then the third thing, later this week, Stu's been invited to present during a webinar, which was sponsored by our wonderful friends at the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority in partnership with a company called Mail Pound, so MAIL and then Pound. And they are a travel advisor database and partnership marketing program. The database has more than 50,000 travel advisors in it. And the attendees on Thursday at the webinar are travel agents from around the country. So they average about 70 registered online, and then 30 people will be in attendance. And the beauty of this, and I appreciate the RSCVA for inviting us to this, is basically to kind of put Carson City on the map with this particular group, with these travel agents. And we will also have access to the contact info for all the registered attendees and then anyone that actually comes there for the day of. So after that webinar is finished, it'll be available to all 50,000 travel advisors, which I think is pretty cool. So if they, I'm assuming they download it or go online or whatever, through the Reno Tahoe digital brochure rack that they already have on mailpound.com, they'll be able to learn about Carson City. So I think this is a great opportunity. It's of no cost to us, and I thank the RSCVA for including us. So yeah, so great stuff on that front. And with that, any questions that the board may have? That's my report for today. Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and move on, Chair, to 11B, the transient occupancy tax, actual versus forecast. So that's the big 11 by 17 sheet in your packet. You can see that March at 1.766 million is going to exceed even the projection that we had last month. I did go ahead and make some adjustments to April, May, and June. So if you go all the way over to the right, you'll see right now we're projecting just over $26.4 million. And that's going to put us just under 30% increase as compared to fiscal 21. So again, back to the questions about our flat projection, that's just a very large increase.
Yeah.
From fiscal year to fiscal year. So if we could do that again, that would be amazing, quite frankly, for next fiscal year. So
I would imagine that's a record. 26.
yes. Yeah, so our previous record was the 20.88
It's 3.
million in fiscal 19. So yeah, I mean, we're pushing another, I said 6, sorry, 5-ish, 5.6 million ahead or 5.5 million ahead. So any questions on the FY22 projections? Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to slip down below for 11C. Stu is out today for the events and sales update, so just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Perfect, okay. Can everybody,
Now we have the new
Hello?
Dave.
the new
in
day?
a different seat.
Wait, is it, hello? Yeah. It's working? Oh, good. Okay, it's hard to hear down here. Okay, so if Stu were here, he would be talking to you about the Battleborn Blades that we have coming up later this month. Can they see that? Oh, there we go. Oh, perfect. And then we'll get into the Stetna's Pay Dirt this month as well, and then IPW in June. So I'm gonna, can I go 1 forward and still see that? Oh, shoot. Well, okay. So the Battleborn Blades, this is really cool. It's HEMA is the acronym. But this is a sword fighting tournament that we have coming. So imagine mixed martial arts, but beating each other with swords and everything. So we have this coming at the end of May. What's exciting, and I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit. We will be out at the Fuji Park this go around, and then the hope is they would like to bring a women's only tournament here for Labor Day weekend, and there's no such type tournament in the world. So if we can pull this off and have this event in September, I think it's going to be amazing because we'll pull people from around the world. And I do know for a fact that we have somebody coming from Europe, I believe, for the men's tournament later on this month. So we've got folks I know from the East Coast already registered for this. And then I believe, and you have to forgive me because I don't remember what Stu said, which country, but I think somebody from Europe will be here as well later on this month. So I'm excited about, I got ahead of myself, excited about the HEMA event. So, and then of course, 2021, we have finally 4 times over the Stetna Pay Dirt gravel grinder event. We're all set up. All the permits are in place. We are ready to rock and roll. I think this is going to be a fantastic full weekend event. I'm very much looking forward to getting this first one underway, and I know Carlos and Pete are very excited about this event as well. Finally, right? If you recall, I believe we started this in 2020, and then it's one cancellation after the other. Between the pandemic, the smoke, and then the fires, right? It's just continued to push this wonderful event until this month. So any questions before I go on to IBW? Okay, go ahead, Mike, sorry.
Can you go back to the Setna? I just had a question. I was looking at the map where it says parking. Is that bike parking or is that parking for the general public down there? Where the start finish?
Probably both, Mike. I'm looking at that too. That's out in the dirt lot. So yeah, I mean, obviously we have a situation, I think, for that weekend where we're going to push people like the participants, who they will park in that back lot. I'm looking at that, thinking that's out by the dog park. Sorry, it's super small, but yeah, the participants will be out there because the vendors and the exhibitors will be in that kind of grassy area, I guess, as you're looking at, to the right of the pay dirt logo. So yeah, we're going to allow the participants or spectators to park out there as well.
Is there a plan in place? Because obviously the convenient choice for most people attending would be to go to the Costco lot and not having to deal with that. Are we going to have some kind of plan to deter them?
Yeah, I know there's, I think, what, signage or something that they kind of put up there that's on the Costco side, that unless you're shopping at Costco, this is not for event parking or event participants or attendees. So yeah. And and Lydia, you correct me if I'm wrong here. The first event, the goal was 400, but we are going to hit the capacity permitting issue of 500 people is where we're at right now. And without getting into the nitty-gritty details, it would have required something in Douglas County the moment you go to 501 participants at an event. But for next year, I think 600-700 people, to be honest with you, would be the goal, right? So I'm excited, to have 500 folks coming in for this first inaugural event. So I apologize for not stating that participant
500's
number
great.
earlier. Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And their class, I mean, their
Yeah.
class, Carlos.
And
they're
then
great.
Pete, no, they're wonderful. Oh, please, yeah, no, go ahead, Lydia.
From a PR perspective, this in this area is actually garnering a lot of PR from professional riders. Gravel just continues to be a growing sport, and people are excited about it. We have a lot of people in the social media space and writers that have a pretty strong following that have already been posting about it. So I think even just organically, we're going to get a lot of buzz around this in the professional world. Plus, I mean, you can see on the schedule there, if you tie during this event, you have to do a mechanical bull ride-off. And so they're also just pulling in some really fun things that I think are going to get a lot of exposure to, because that's just the nature of those guys. And I think they do themselves a really amazing job of their marketing, which helps us just be more confident that we have some great partners in them. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Lydia. I completely forgot about the bull riding, which you have to have with a gravel grinder race. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. So any other questions about the Stetna event? Okay, wonderful. So IPW, very excited about this. It will be in Orlando. Stu did an amazing job stepping in literally, halfway through the whole process with registration and appointments and all of that good stuff. We have our 50 appointment requests in, which is great. So our whole booklet is filled. And then he also was invited to participate in the Go Global IPW virtual appointment option. And I want to say with those countries, I think we have another 11 appointments there as well. So pretty cool. We could push 60-something total appointments on this. So we're ready to roll. Been on the phone working with Travel Nevada. We will be in the pavilion for Nevada. So we sit right next to the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority. Directly across from us is Elko, and then Travel Nevada shares that 10 by 30 foot space. So I won't belabor you with all the other points in there because I feel like we've talked about this already, but great opportunity for us in Orlando. So any questions about IPW? Okay, if not, Chair, let's go ahead and move on to 11D, Arts and Culture Update. So with that, I will let Deborah take it away. Thank you.
So my update is a verbal update this meeting. A few things to share with you. the planning and marketing for the Great Western Steam Up event taking place on the 4th of July, which celebrates the 150th anniversary of the completion of the VNT Railroad, is well underway now. This will be the largest reunion of existing Virginia and Truckee locomotives from across the country that has assembled in 75 years. And ticket sales for the event are amazing so far. We have about 1,000 visitors already signed up, about 50,000 in ticket sales already, with visitors from across the country, including some from as far as Florida, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New Jersey. So it's shaping up to be quite something. Because it takes place on the 4th of July weekend, it will be extremely busy here in Carson City. There will also be some youth baseball, as I understand, taking place on that same weekend. So we're expecting all the lodging properties will be sold out, as some are already reporting now. The 2023 Arts and Culture RAC grants, the application period for the 2022 to 23 Arts and Culture RAC grants is now open, closes on the 20th of May. The amount of funds available this year have doubled, now $50,000 up from $25,000, and the grant guidelines have been expanded for the grant program this year to include any projects that serve to implement the 2022 Arts and Culture Strategic Plan, as well as arts and cultural events. I've received several questions about the grants this year, but no applications yet, but that's pretty normal. Most grant applications tend to come in during the final week. So I'm also holding a discussion meeting with the arts and culture organizations later this week to answer questions about the grant and to talk about the new opportunities that are now available under the new grant program. Mark Twain Days. We're still in the process of working out an agreement with an organization to take on the festival for the first year, to be the party that submits the permits to the city, takes out insurance for the event, and handles the financial transactions. And I'm meeting with a potential partner on that tomorrow to make a pitch. The next Mark Twain Days planning meeting is scheduled to take place next week on the 16th of May. And we have some new members of the planning committee that are going to be joining us, including Linda Marone and Joy Holt. Joy Holt is the business manager for the Carson City Library, and she's interested in helping to get the literary activities pulled together for the festival. And Linda is interested in helping work with the restaurants to get them on board and help them plan how they can be directly involved in terms of special menu items, beverages, and anything else that they choose to include for the festival. The new city arts and culture position, the job description for this new position, which is titled the Arts and Culture Program Supervisor, is being prepared by Dan Arp, the Parks and Rec Department's Recreation Supervisor, and it is intended to be advertised soon. And that's it.
Any questions?
Any
For
questions?
Deborah?
When do they hope to fill by?
I don't have a date, or at least I've not been informed of a date, but I do know that it is in their recreation newsletter that those positions are going to be that particular position is going to be advertised soon.
Are the Mark Twain committee meetings, are they open to the public?
They're not at this particular point in time, but if there's someone who's really interested in joining us, whether just to hear about what's happening or to contribute something, they're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Deborah? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Deborah. With that, we will go ahead and move on to 11E, the Marketing and Public Relations Update. Lydia Beck, take it away.
Thank you. We're pretty short and sweet agenda today. We're going to go through the PR report, some of our social media ads, the newsletter update, and then what we have upcoming, mostly related to the campaign. So for our PR report in April, you can see our numbers are have been wildly successful. So they almost seem a little unbelievable. So I wanted to walk through that this year because our annual publicity value goal is still $225,000. So you can see we've beaten that by an enormous landslide. And we're evaluating this for our next year as we're planning for fiscal year 23. But I wanted to point out that the Coos Stevens story that happened for the memorial run for his ancestors went viral. And so that was a huge contributor to our publicity value. We also had many stories around Stewart Indian School that got picked up by major press outlets around all the investigations that stemmed from the boarding schools that they discovered burial grounds in Canada. So that also picked up a lot of press. And then we also had a Forbes article by Jared Ranahan, who is a media writer that came in actually almost a year and a half ago, I think. But his article was just published about, I think, 4 or 5 months ago about day trips from Reno that we were included in. And that alone had $1 million publicity value from that one article. And then we were just picked up by VIA, the AAA magazine, about rail bikes, and that was over $300,000 alone. So much like our projections for room revenue, we're hoping that we can replicate years like this, but I think we're always going to have that baseline minimum foundation number that we're looking for. And then, anything on top of that is really icing on the cake like we've seen here. So we've had a steady drumbeat of news coverage in April alone, a lot talking about the Cultural Commission accepting nominations, Stu's article that got picked up kind of locally and regionally about his being an addition to our team. And then we also had the Lay Day, which got picked up quite a bit this month too. And then we will continue to push articles well into the summer, and we'll have more FAMs and media and influencer tours along the way.
In business, I would say you're sandbagging.
I know. I also said the same to KPS3. I was like, oh, I feel like we're sandbagging a little bit here. But that was also kind of the response that we got. We really dissected how much we got and where that stemmed from. And so we're going to hopefully have a more realistic number for us next year.
The good thing is we have a product people are interested in.
Agreed.
So that's, I guess, what that tells me.
It's been exciting to see. I think, like I said, Stewart Indian School, since opening, has been a huge contributor to our publicity. As complicated as some of those articles can get and the history that they have to tell, I'm glad to see that people are at least having that conversation and bringing more awareness to us in the school. So
Good.
So these are just some examples of paid advertising. We focused this month mostly on summer events. So we're starting to promote Brewfest, the Taste of Downtown, the Great Western Steam Up, Levitt, and the start of the VNT and rail bike seasons. So you can see a little bit how those carousel ads look on Instagram and Facebook. We also had some that just promoted spring in general. Zach made a pretty awesome video. We got in the last couple days of the spring blossoms, we just kind of decided to run out and grab something quick. And Shelby, who's our resident blogger that you've seen some things from, was nice enough to come out with us. So I wasn't the only person in the video this time, but I will make an appearance. And then we also have our spring checklist blog that continues to do really well for us for the last couple of years. And then we also always run an ad every month promoting our newsletter sign up that does really well. And that was repurposing that spring commercial that I showed you last month. And here, if it works, is that video that Zach put together. That downtown corridor right in front of the old Attorney General building and in front of the Capitol is really stunning. Bear with me here for a second. Maybe. There we go. this is just a fun little teaser of showing what it's like downtown in the spring. I think showing our seasons and the change in seasons is one of the best things that we can do. We just have an incredible downtown that speaks for itself. So having Zach to be able to go out and do things like that on a whim and be able to work around the weather has been just incredibly valuable. So we're definitely grateful to have him. And then as spring is rolling to an end, we're beginning summer promotions and planning promotions starting with our newsletter. So this normally is how it looks when you scroll all the way through, but I wanted to give you a side-by-side of what the full newsletter looks like. So give you the top 5 reasons to visit us this summer. We have a summer weekend blog itinerary already planned out, talk about the upcoming events, throw some video in there, hotel suggestions, and then talking about our Hungry Hikers and Bikers Pass, the Kit Carson Trail, and then exploring galleries and museums as well. We have reporting that shows us a click map. So these tiny little boxes that you see with the little numbers in them are actually how many times someone has clicked on that link throughout our newsletter. So you can see what people are really looking for. By far in this one of that whole newsletter you just saw, events were sprinkled in there a couple times, and it was continually the top performing, top clicked link that we had. So we try to hyperlink as much as we can so we can continue to track people and see how they're moving through our website. And our newsletter is a great way to do that, to provide a lot of information in one space. We also are continually improving our open rate. You can see on this bottom one, our campaign compares pretty significantly higher than some of our average campaign, some of the just general campaign performance across all industries. And then we're reporting just a little bit above standard for our peers. And then our click rate, you can see, is right along with it at 5.5%. And then for what's coming up, our commercial storyboard for the new campaign is finalized. We're working with Trespasser Productions to bring that to life. And so we'll begin filming, if all goes as planned, that first week in June. We're really excited to see what comes. I think the production company we're working with, Trespasser, is ahead of the game. They definitely don't play it safe, but do it in a responsible way. They push the limits of what things look like and how to represent our destination, and we're really excited to see what comes from that. And Zach is starting to scout and has been scouting for a while for locations for this too, and also we'll be continuing to gather assets for all the upcoming major events that we just talked about. So we'll continue to build our galleries and build our assets to promote next year. And I'm happy to take any questions. If
Any
there are any.
questions from the board? Thank you, Lydia. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to 11F, future agenda items. If anybody on the board has anything they'd like to see at next month's meeting, now is the time to throw that out. Seeing nothing, let's go ahead and move on to 11G, upcoming meetings. So we do have another May meeting on Monday, May 23rd at 4 p.m. will be our budget hearing. And I assure you, given how efficient and smooth the process went with Chris's presentation today, that I will let her handle that as well, because she has a 7-minute timeline to meet. So good luck with that, Chris. And then our regularly scheduled meeting will be Monday, June 13th in this room at 4 p.m. So don't forget about the 23rd. So with
No,
that, I'll turn it back over
I
to
would
you,
just
Chair.
encourage all the board members to go through the budget packet again and call Chris with any questions.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
look
And she did
forward
an
to it.
amazing job. I couldn't say that under that agenda item because she didn't want me to, but she kicked butt putting the budget together. We got a great, clean bill of health from the Department of Taxation in the letter. They said it was amazing, well done, perfectly executed, so. 4 o'clock on the 23rd, yes.
With that, we'll move on to item 12. Any announcements or requests for information from the board? Seeing that, we'll move on to item 13. I'll ask for any public comment, and I don't think we're going to have any, so we'll move on to the last item, and that's to adjourn. If I could get a motion? We're